Ladies and gentlemen, we are often told to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, to see the good in others, to trust until proven otherwise. But here's the truth: not everyone deserves your trust, and not everyone has earned your respect. That might sound harsh, but boundaries are not barriers. They're the clarity that keeps us safe, sane, and authentic. And there are certain kinds of people, 9 to be exact, who repeatedly show us through actions, not words, that they're not safe places for our trust or our respect. We grow up in a world that often romanticizes unconditional trust. We're taught from a young age that everyone deserves a chance, that we should give others the benefit of the doubt, and that being trusting is a virtue. But here's what we rarely learn: trust is not a blanket you throw over the world. It is something you build brick by brick, moment by moment, through consistent behavior and mutual vulnerability. It is not a moral failing to withhold trust from someone who has shown you through action, not accident, that they do not honor your safety or your story. Respect follows the same path. It is not owed by default. It must be reflected in how someone sees you, treats you, and honors your worth. There is a common misconception that having boundaries or being selective about who we trust means we're judgmental or unforgiving. In reality, having boundaries is the highest expression of self-awareness and care. It's a declaration that your emotional well-being, your peace, and your dignity matter. When we give our trust to people simply because we've known them a long time, because they're family, or because culture tells us we should, we often end up wounded and confused, wondering why we feel so betrayed when the signs were there all along. Trust must be earned. Time alone doesn't qualify someone. Familiarity doesn't either. What qualifies someone is how they consistently show up, especially when things are messy, inconvenient, or complicated. Think about the people in your life who show up when it's easy, but disappear when it's hard. Or the ones who speak about values like loyalty, honesty, and respect, but abandon those values the moment they're faced with conflict. These are the people who haven't done the work to be trustworthy, even if they're charming, charismatic, or connected to you by blood. We need to move away from performative kindness and into the deep work of accountability. Because it's not what someone says when you're watching that tells you who they are. It's what they do when they think it won't come back to them. That's the measure. And that's where your trust should or shouldn't begin. Trust is also reciprocal. We can't pour it endlessly into relationships that offer no return. If someone continually crosses your boundaries, ignores your needs, or diminishes your experiences, they are showing you that they don't respect you. And without respect, there can be no real trust. The two are intertwined. Respect means recognizing your right to say no without retaliation. It means honoring your voice, your space, your feelings. So when someone repeatedly violates these things, even subtly, they are, in effect, disqualifying themselves from the privilege of your trust. And yes, trust is a privilege, not a guarantee. It is not cruelty to revoke it. It's wisdom. There's an emotional cost to giving your trust to people who haven't earned it. It looks like second-guessing yourself after every conversation. It feels like walking on eggshells around someone who once made you feel safe. It sounds like silencing your truth so they don't feel uncomfortable. That cost adds up over time. It drains you. It reshapes your view of yourself, and eventually it can make you question your worth. The boundary here is recognizing that you are not obligated to keep proving your loyalty to people who keep proving they don't value it. You can choose peace. You can choose distance. You can choose to reclaim your trust and offer it to those who treat it like the sacred thing it is. The bottom line is this: trust and respect are living, breathing agreements. They are not fixed traits you award someone indefinitely. They evolve based on behavior, not intention. And when someone continues to show you that they don't take care of your heart, your story, or your boundaries, that's your cue. You don't need more red flags to make a decision. You need courage. The courage to honor what you know. The courage to believe that protecting yourself is not selfish. It's responsible. And the courage to trust yourself above all, because when that relationship is intact, no one can take advantage of your kindness again. One of the most painful lessons we ever learn is that betrayal doesn't always come with a grand announcement. Sometimes it comes quietly in the form of small broken promises, consistent disregard, or subtle disloyalties that chip away at our sense of safety. We often convince ourselves that if someone apologizes or says the right words, we can trust them again. But trust isn't rebuilt with language, it's rebuilt with behavior. Repeated betrayal, no matter how subtle, tells a story. It's a pattern, and patterns speak louder than promises. You don't need to wait for betrayal to become explosive before it's valid to walk away. We often downplay recurring betrayals because they're wrapped in justifications. They didn't mean it. They were stressed. They're going through something. And while empathy is important, it should never be weaponized against your boundaries. When someone repeatedly causes harm, apologizes, and then repeats the cycle, they are not struggling. They are choosing. The choice may be unconscious, but it is still a choice. And you are allowed to choose differently. You are allowed to recognize that someone's pattern of behavior disqualifies them from emotional closeness, even if their words sound sincere. Subtle betrayals can be the most damaging because they're easy to excuse and harder to name. Maybe it's the friend who constantly forgets things you said were important, or the partner who shares your vulnerabilities in ways that feel careless, or the colleague who undermines you with a smile. These small betrayals send a clear message over time: your needs are not safe here. Your heart is not held here. You are not protected here. And that message, when repeated, creates internal confusion. It makes you question your standards, your gut, your reality. That confusion is a sign that trust has been compromised. One of the most dangerous things we do in relationships is override our instincts in favor of potential. We see who someone could be and we ignore who they keep showing us they are. We cling to their good moments as evidence that things will change, that the betrayal was an outlier. But the truth is, the most reliable predictor of future behavior is past behavior. If someone has broken your trust consistently, no matter how softly, they are telling you something. And your job is not to rescue them. Your job is to protect yourself. You do not owe anyone unlimited access to your heart. You do not have to keep re-explaining the same boundaries to someone who keeps stepping over them. When someone betrays you repeatedly, the issue is no longer misunderstanding. It's disregard. Promises without follow-through are manipulation. Warm words followed by cold actions are manipulation. Someone can love you and still be unsafe for you. That's a hard truth, but it's a necessary one. Because if you continue to hold space for people who betray you, you're teaching your nervous system that inconsistency is normal, and it's not. So what does it mean to believe someone's pattern, not just their promises? It means shifting from wishful thinking to grounded clarity. It means trusting yourself more than you trust their potential. It means holding people accountable to what they do, not what they say. This isn't about cynicism. It's about discernment. And discernment is what helps us navigate relationships with wisdom, not wounds. You are not here to be a container for someone else's chaos. You are here to build relationships where safety, consistency, and truth are sacred. And anything less than that isn't trust. It's just hope dressed up as loyalty. We live in a world that often confuses relationships with exchanges. We're praised for being useful, admired for our value, and appreciated most when we're giving something: time, energy, connections, praise, attention. But at their core, real relationships are not transactional. They are rooted in presence, not performance. Emotional safety cannot be built when one person is keeping a silent scorecard. When someone only shows up when it benefits them, when they tally every favor and every gesture to leverage it later, what you have is not intimacy. What you have is a negotiation dressed as a connection. Emotional accountants exist in every circle. They keep tabs. You did this for them last year, so they expect something in return with interest. And if you can't deliver, the warmth disappears, the message is slow, the support evaporates. The relationship becomes cold because your value to them was never in who you are. It was in what you could provide. This is exploitation in soft clothing. And yet, we stay loyal to it far longer than we should because we mistake consistency for care. But a consistent taker is still a taker no matter how long they've been around. Opportunists are subtler, but just as harmful. They are drawn to people with influence, emotional generosity, or social capital, not because they care, but because they see access. They are charming, attentive, and perform empathy well until the transaction is complete. Once they've gotten what they needed, an introduction, support during a crisis, a place to land, they drift, they become unavailable. They forget how close you once were. And because they never openly asked for any, their detachment feels confusing instead of obvious. But in truth, they were never there to connect. They were there to extract. When we're deeply empathetic or relationally generous, we often fail to see these patterns early on. We assume others engage the same way we do, with openness, without an agenda. But recognizing emotional accountants and opportunists isn't about becoming guarded, it's about becoming wise. You begin to notice who disappears when you're not useful. You start to see who checks in with you only when they need something. You start tracking the weight of one-sided effort, not out of bitterness, but out of honesty. Relationships are supposed to be mutual. If you're always the one initiating, always the one giving, always the one available, it's not mutual, it's maintenance. Healthy connection doesn't keep score. In real, safe relationships, giving flows naturally, not because we're trying to earn a place in someone's life, but because we genuinely care. And in return, we are seen, supported, and valued not for our usefulness, but for our presence. The moment you feel like a resource instead of a human, it's time to pause. Ask yourself, would this person still be here if I had nothing to give? Would they check on me if I didn't serve a purpose? Would they still honor my place in their life if I stopped offering emotional labor, advice, or opportunity? Your answers matter more than their compliments ever will. You deserve relationships that feel like home, not business. You deserve to rest without fear that you'll be forgotten. You deserve to be loved, not managed. So notice the ones who show up when there's nothing in it for them. Those are the keepers. And notice the ones who disappear when you need them the most, or who suddenly appear only when it benefits them. They are not evil, but they are not safe. And connection without safety isn't connection. It's performance. You are not a transaction. Stop treating your presence like a product. There is a persistent myth that boundaries are cold, selfish, or unkind. That if we say no, we are rejecting others. That if we ask for space, we are being dramatic. That if we protect our peace, we are building walls. But let's be clear, boundaries are not barriers. They are bridges between who you are and what you need in order to stay whole, honest, and emotionally well. They are not about pushing others away. They are about keeping you close to yourself. Without boundaries, you abandon yourself slowly, silently, and over time until resentment replaces connection and exhaustion replaces joy. People who struggle with boundaries often confuse love with sacrifice. They think love means overextending. That respect means enduring. That connection means saying yes when everything inside them screams no. But the truth is, love and self-neglect cannot coexist. Every time you say yes to something that violates your truth, you say no to yourself. And over time, you begin to disappear. The version of you that once felt vibrant and centered begins to feel small, anxious, resentful. Boundaries are not punishment. They are protection, not from others, but from the slow erosion of your own identity. When someone resists your boundaries, it's not because your boundary is wrong. It's because your boundary disrupts their comfort. That is not your responsibility to fix. People who love you, respect you, and are capable of real connection will adjust. They may not get it right the first time, but they will listen. They will try. And they will honor your effort to care for yourself. But people who benefit from your lack of boundaries will often react with guilt, tripping, anger, or withdrawal. That reaction is not proof you're being too much. It's proof that they've grown too used to having too much of you. Boundaries are also the foundation of trust. When we are clear about what we need, where we stand, and what we will or won't allow, we become consistent. And consistency builds safety. For us and for others, people don't have to guess who they're going to get when we're honoring our boundaries. They get the grounded, honest, emotionally present version of us, the version that isn't hiding behind people, pleasing or pretending. That kind of clarity deepens connection. It allows us to show up authentically, and it invites others to do the same. Without boundaries, we don't create connection, we create compliance. And compliance isn't closeness. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you don't care about others. It means you care deeply enough to be honest. It means you believe in sustainable relationships, not performative ones. It means you understand that your time, your energy, and your emotional bandwidth are finite, and that you are worthy of protecting them. We cannot give from an empty place. And when we say yes to everything, we eventually have nothing left to offer. Boundaries allow you to keep showing up with integrity, not obligation, and there's a big difference between the two. Integrity feels peaceful. Obligation feels heavy. So if someone makes you feel guilty for setting boundaries, remember, it's not your job to be more tolerable to others at the cost of your own truth. The people who genuinely care about you will not only respect your boundaries, they'll thank you for them. Because boundaries are where real love grows, not the kind of love that demands, drains, or performs, but the kind of love that listens, honors, and stays. You are not selfish for choosing peace. You are wise for knowing that authentic connection can only happen when we stop abandoning ourselves for it. Trust is not built in grand gestures. It's built in the quiet, consistent moments. in how someone speaks to you, listens to you, shows up for you, and takes responsibility when they hurt you. The cornerstones of trust are kindness, honesty, and accountability. These are not optional virtues. They are essential if we want to create relationships that feel emotionally safe. Without them, we may still have connection, but it will be surface level, unpredictable, or unstable. Kindness is not just politeness. It's the intention to cause no harm. Honesty isn't just truth telling, it's the courage to be real. And accountability isn't just saying sorry. It's showing change. We all make mistakes. Every one of us has let someone down, said the wrong thing, or failed to show up. What separates the trustworthy from the unsafe is what happens after. People who value trust don't hide behind defensiveness or blame. They don't twist the truth or deflect responsibility. Instead, they own their actions, even when it's uncomfortable. They say, I was wrong, and I want to make it right. That kind of accountability repairs the cracks that hurt creates. It says, your feelings matter. Our connection matters. And trust, like a muscle, grows stronger through that kind of repair. In contrast, manipulation, no matter how subtle, eats away at the fabric of trust. It turns relationships into power games, where honesty is replaced by tactics and emotional control. The manipulator uses guilt to keep you compliant, gaslighting to keep you confused, and silence to keep you unsure. They may appear warm or generous on the outside, but their warmth has a price. And that price is your clarity, your confidence, and your peace. Manipulation doesn't always come with a threat. Sometimes it comes in the form of, I'm just worried about you, when what they really mean is, you're not doing what I want. Criticism is another slow destroyer of trust, not the kind that offers thoughtful feedback, but the kind that chips away at your self-worth. This kind of person hides behind the phrase, I'm just being honest. But their honesty has no softness. They dress cruelty as candor. Over time, their comments make you feel smaller, weaker, less capable, like you're always one mistake away from rejection. In these dynamics, trust can't grow because you never feel safe to be imperfect. And any relationship that requires perfection to maintain peace is not a relationship, it's a performance. And then there's gossip. It may seem harmless, a way to vent, to connect, to feel in the know. But when someone constantly talks about others behind their backs, know this, you are not the exception. You are simply their current audience. Gossip signals a fundamental lack of emotional integrity. It tells you they prioritize entertainment over empathy, drama over discretion, and access over loyalty. If they betray others in your presence, they will eventually betray you in someone else's. Trust cannot survive in relationships that make cruelty sound casual. If someone's connection style is rooted in tearing others down, that's not social bonding. That's a warning. The people worth trusting are the ones who protect your name when you're not in the room, who are kind when it's not convenient, who are honest even when the truth is hard, and who hold themselves accountable without being pushed. These people create safe spaces. With them, you don't have to perform, shrink, or second guess your worth. You can be messy. You can be human. You can be real. And in that kind of connection, trust isn't something you have to chase. It's something that just is. Not because it was promised, but because it was earned. Emotional invalidation is one of the most quietly damaging behaviors in any relationship. It doesn't always look aggressive or cruel. In fact, it often comes wrapped in a smile, disguised as logic, advice, or even concern. You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. That's not what happened. On the surface, these may sound like attempts to diffuse conflict or create perspective, but beneath them lies a message that's far more dangerous. Your emotions make me uncomfortable, so I'm going to deny them until they go away. And when someone makes a habit of doing this, what they're protecting isn't your well-being, it's their own emotional convenience. Feeling seen is one of the most fundamental human needs. When someone consistently dismisses, minimizes, or corrects your emotions, it creates a rupture, a subtle but deep wound in your ability to feel safe. It teaches you that your inner world is not valid unless it fits someone else's version of events. It conditions you to suppress your reactions, question your instincts, and second-guess your truth. Over time, this erodes your confidence and your clarity. You stop asking for what you need, not because your needs have disappeared, but because you've learned they might be a burden. It's important to understand that invalidation is not always loud. Sometimes it's a deep sigh when you express frustration. Sometimes it's a quick subject change when you talk about something hard. Sometimes it's a blank stare when you start to cry. And sometimes it's a lecture about how others have it worse, a classic maneuver that disguises emotional shutdown as perspective. These responses are not emotionally mature. They are emotionally avoidant. And avoidance is not empathy. It's not protection. It's fear in a mask. And it's not your job to make your emotions more palatable to accommodate that fear. When someone is truly emotionally safe, they make space for all of you, not just the parts that are easy. They don't shame your sadness, question your anxiety, or play devil's advocate when you're sharing your truth. They don't try to fix you because they understand that support doesn't always look like solving. Sometimes it just looks like listening. Emotional safety means being able to say, I'm hurting, and having the other person say, I hear you, I'm here. It sounds simple, but in relationships where invalidation has been the norm, that kind of presence can feel revolutionary. You do not have to earn validation by presenting your emotions in a tidy, digestible way. You don't need to justify your pain to be treated with care. Your experiences are not up for debate. And anyone who repeatedly makes you feel like they are has shown you who they are, someone who values comfort over connection, someone who values control over curiosity, someone who wants emotional harmony, but not the work it takes to get there. And harmony built on silence isn't peace. It's performance. And it will never sustain you. Real connection requires courage, the courage to sit with discomfort, to hold space for complexity, to honor emotions that you may not understand. If someone can't do that, it doesn't make them evil. It makes them unsafe. And safety isn't just about how someone treats you when things are easy. It's about how they respond when you are vulnerable, messy, or in pain. So if your voice gets quieter around certain people, if your truth feels too heavy to share, if your tears make someone disappear, believe that. Their reaction is not about your value. It's about their capacity, and you deserve to be met, not managed. The truth is, not everyone deserves your trust, not because you're bitter, guarded, or unforgiving, but because you've learned to listen to patterns, not promises. You've learned that your energy is sacred, your emotions are valid, and your boundaries are not negotiable. You've learned that proximity is not the same as loyalty. That charm is not the same as character, and that being needed is not the same as being loved. We cannot build honest, nourishing relationships with people who deny us, diminish us, or depend on our silence to stay comfortable. Trust is not a gift we give blindly. It's a slow, earned currency built on consistency, respect, and mutual care. And respect is not something others get just because they demand it. It's something they show moment by moment in how they treat our hearts when no one else is watching. So choose wisely. Choose the ones who honor your boundaries, who tell the truth even when it's hard, who don't use your vulnerability as leverage. Choose the ones who protect your name, your spirit, and your space. And just as importantly, choose to be that kind of person for others, because the quality of your life will never be determined by how many people you can please, but by how many relationships truly hold and uplift the real you. You do not owe your trust to those who consistently prove they cannot hold it. Let go lovingly if you can, firmly if you must. Protect your peace. Choose what honors your dignity. And remember, your inner safety is not a luxury. It's a necessity. Treat it like one,